Now, this year's celebration has a context, and it's special because we are celebrating the second priority of the Archdiocesan Synod, which is to revitalize Catholic culture and Catholic identity. Eucharist is the principal sign of Catholic culture and Catholic identity. Now, we're going to have a year to work on this together, and then we will relate it to the other priorities of the Synod, one of which, family life, we have completed over the last year and a half. I want to say just a couple of things about culture. It's very easy to affirm you for your faith and to thank you for your witness, but I want you to understand this in relation to revitalizing Catholic culture and revitalizing your identity as an individual Catholic. Culture is learned. Now, everybody has to hear that. Everybody has to understand that. Culture is learned. It is never allowed to assume that culture will communicate itself. It has to be taught. It has to be witnessed. It has to be experienced. And facilitating experience in culture happens in family, it happens in schools, it happens in parishes, it happens in vicariates, it happens on an archdiocesan level. It does not happen by accident. And it's absolutely important that we understand this. Now, as you know from the Catholic News, I've already begun, at the request of the vicars of the Archdiocese, I've already begun to write on this subject in collaboration with the Synod implementation team. But I didn't want you to have this celebration without putting it into this context, the context of the second priority of the Synod, about which you will hear many things over the coming year. In the reading from Deuteronomy, you find Moses saying to the people, remember. Now, I don't want you to take remembering for granted. One of the reasons why the businesses of the nation, of any nation, spend millions of dollars every year on advertising is because people forget. So they keep on giving you the same message over and over and over again with music, with dance, with attractive people communicating whatever they're trying to sell. And it's important that you remember the same dynamic happens with your faith. You can forget. And when you forget, you begin to distance yourself from the Lord. That's why it's very, very rewarding to see so many people here today celebrating their faith. Remember what God has done for you on both levels, on the level of you as an individual, on the level of you as a community of God's people. God formed you as his chosen people. And a fair question to ask is, how do we remember? When you really get down to it, and the Synod implementation team has asked you to do this, sit down in small group in your family, in your parish, in your schools, explicitly explain how you remember. And the principal way of remembering is by celebrating. So I notice a lot of young people here, and I'm happy to see them. But one of the things the senior community, the middle-aged community has to do for them is not only bring them here, but explain to them what's happening so they understand what they're celebrating, so they understand what has been done for them by God. Now, all of us, the young, the middle-aged, and senior citizens, are searching for fullness of life. We are searching for that integration that brings peace and that brings meaning to our lives. One dimension of our search that we must understand is that hunger and thirst are not just physical needs. Get that straight. Hunger and thirst, and we all experience that, are not just physical needs. The quest for holiness is not just a psychological need. All of those things are spiritual needs. I hunger for God, I thirst for God, I strive for holiness. The problem is that people do not know God. They have not had a deep personal relationship with God, and therefore they don't know where to look. I can't tell you how many people speak to me in airports, on planes, at meetings. And they ask the question, how do I find God? They have this thirst, but they don't know how. And one of the responsibilities we have, we're doing it today, is we're showing them that by celebration, you begin to experience God, you begin to experience what you have been given by God, you begin to experience the community that has been formed by God, and that your responsibility is to share that